Presley and Dylan. I am 21 years old. I live in Austin, Arkansas with my husband, Kyler Harwood, and my 2.5, almost 3, she'll be 3 in January, daughter named Sophia Harwood. I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis at 5 months old. My parents are Darren and Trish Jenkins. My mom is over there at table 7. Hi, Mom. The first couple of months were hard for my parents because they didn't know I had cystic fibrosis, and I was very, very sick and in and out of the doctor's office every few weeks. Thinking I had colic or was just sick, they were very, very worried. I had gotten so sick that one afternoon they took me to the ER at Arkansas Children's Hospital. I had pneumonia and one of my lungs had collapsed. The pulmonary doctors were consulted. That's when my parents met Dr. Morris, and he asked them questions about the symptoms of cystic fibrosis, and they answered yes to every single one of them. They did a sweat test to confirm, and that's when they told my parents I had cystic fibrosis. My mom and dad were relieved, but worried about what the future holds, for they have never heard of cystic fibrosis. My daily regimen consists of breathing treatments, along with my vest, about 4 times a day, and when I'm sick, 2 times a day, when I'm a little bit healthier. Squeezing in CF treatments every day can be a challenge, especially when life gets in the way. My treatments consist of a vest that I wear that has hose attachments. Those hoses plug into a small machine that shakes me to get all the built-up mucus out of my lungs. I do that for 30 minutes, 2 times a day. I was also diagnosed at 13 years old with cystic fibrosis-related diabetes, or CFRD. I have to inject 2 types of insulin every day, one after meals and the other at night to regulate my blood sugar. CFRD is very similar to type 1 diabetes, but the CF-related diabetes, the pancreas gets stopped up with thick mucus and blocks the insulin from being released. Every morning and every evening, I take roughly about 15 pills with my insulin. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, so those can get in the way, but with God and my husband's help, I can fight through it. About a year ago, I was able to start taking Orkambi, and Orkambi has changed my life in several ways. I don't run out of breath as often as I did before. I can do a lot more things with my family, go to the park, do daily activities. I love to sing, and about 6 months ago, I joined the worship team at my church, thatchurch.com, and I'm running or walking more small marathons with my husband and my mother-in-law. My depression and anxiety is disappearing day after day, and I feel so much happier and healthier. I'm also not taking as much insulin anymore with Orkambi. My family and I are very strong supporters of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and we volunteer in every way we can and everywhere we can. Whether it's at the CF walks at the zoo or personal fundraisers. I thank everyone that has donated or is willing to donate to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation to find a cure for this horrible disease from the bottom of my heart. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you. Because of all the research, generosity, and love poured into the CF Foundation, I can be there to watch my daughter grow up day after day. God bless you all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dylan, Presley's brother, and I'm 18 years old, and I was born with cystic fibrosis. Since my sister was already diagnosed with cystic fibrosis before my parents decided to have me, my mom had an amnio test to check for CF before I was born. The diagnosis came back positive, so my mom was monitored closely, and in one of those visits, they noticed that I had a blockage in my intestines. They did an emergency C-section 5 weeks before I was due, and the doctors rushed me away from my mom and dad because my small intestine had burst. I had meconium ileus. They did surgery the next morning and removed over half of my small intestine, and I was in the hospital for 2.5 months after I was born. Then I finally got to go home right before Christmas. That was really just the start of the problems that I didn't know I was going to have from cystic fibrosis. What is exactly cystic fibrosis, you might ask? It is a genetic disorder that affects mostly the lungs, but also the pancreas, liver, kidneys, and intestines. Long-term issues include difficulty breathing and coughing up mucus as a result of frequent lung infections. That is why we cough so much. We aren't necessarily sick, we just have a lot of mucus, and it makes us cough up and cough a lot. When I was little, I really loved baseball, but I couldn't play as well as the other kids because I wouldn't be able to catch my breath after running the bases and stuff like that. But I would just put up with it so I could play with the other kids on the team. But then my joints started hurting really bad, and I wouldn't be able to bend my knees or even get out of bed some mornings. So I went to the doctor to figure out what was happening, and I was diagnosed with CF-related arthritis, which was caused by a side effect of one of my antibiotics. I was only about 6 or 7, and CF had already taken one of my dreams away. Now let's talk about school. School was hard for me because CF people tend to go to the hospital a lot, and that's what happened to me. I would go to the hospital about 3 to 5 times a year for 2 weeks each time. Kids at school thought I was skipping school, and they would hassle me for being gone because I wouldn't tell them why. I was afraid of what they would think of my invisible illness. But one day, I got sick of all the hassling, and I told them what I had. I thought everything would be good after I told them, but boy was I wrong. For some reason, they started making fun of me for having it. I started getting bullied every day. I was called names, pushed, tripped, and one time a guy grabbed me by my backpack and just threw me across the asphalt like I was trash. I was getting extremely depressed from all of the bullying, and most nights I would cry myself to sleep. I finally opened up to my dad, and my parents decided to pull me out of school. It got so bad that I was really about to commit suicide. I had the knife ready and everything. But my mom got a call from my aunt. She was inviting us to our church because we hadn't gone in a while, and we were looking for a new church home. We went, and we fell in love. I found a purpose to live again. I even started singing, but singing was difficult. But then, what I didn't know what God was doing in the background, He was using all of you for years with your generosity and giving. It was allowing scientists to create this amazing drug called Orkambi. It gave me back my life and more. I'm doing things I was never able to do. I can sing with all my heart, I can run, and finally, I can breathe. I went from going to the hospital for a CF exacerbation every 3 months before taking Orkambi to today. I've only been in the hospital once in the past year. Because of all of you and God, I have my whole life ahead of me, and I'm making plans for the future. So I just want to say thank you. Thank all of you for your time, your giving, and your generosity. You have truly given me life. Thank you.